when you're doing it and bootstrapping it yourself, what's the sort of the marketing strategy on that for you? How are you going to get people in it and know about it?
That's obviously where the personal branding does help, because if you don't want to pay for a model or a photographer or a magazine cover, then, you know, at least I can wear it myself. My husband can take some photos. In terms of having people already ask about it, and loads of people are asking, when's it launching?
Yeah.
And because I wear it to work, to crank, try and get it out there. At the minute, we don't have product to sell. We are still working on it.
Yeah.
But it will start through social.
This episode is brought to you by the Travel Counsellors, the only franchise travel company in the UAE. If you're inspired to start a business like many of the guests we have on the podcast, love to travel, and the thought of planning dream bucket list holidays lights you up, then this could be the opportunity for you. This flexible business allows you to work from home, bonus, whilst Travel Counsellors provide the training, back office support, licensing, and access to industry-leading booking platform. If you're passionate about travel and have an entrepreneurial spirit and interested in joining a company that put care at the heart of everything that they do, then click the links in the show notes below. Welcome to the Kelly Loomer podcast, Louise. It's been ages since I've seen you.
It has, Kelly. Lovely to see you, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for
with
coming
your
on.
lovely roaring fire.
I know, in Dubai.
It's very cozy
cold
in
just
here.
now, though. I was so keen to have a bit of a catch up in the sort of the journey that you've taken through different careers, the personal brand piece, and it just intrigued me to know much more about it. So we know each other through the days of fashion. And I think even, were you not working at Grazia first?
I was, yeah.
Yes, and I think that's when editor at Grazia.
Yeah.
And then you moved on and ended up being editor of Harper's.
Harper's Bazaar.
And then you've had a change over the past couple of years. Did you want to give people a bit of a backstory?
Sure. So my name is Louise Nichol. I'm 45. I've got 3 kids. I moved to Dubai in 2005. Primarily for work opportunities. I was, like late 20s, mid to late 20s, been working in London as a journalist. Yeah. Loved it, but was hungry to progress up the career ladder. And at that time in fashion journalism, in the UK particularly, it was quite hard to move on. No one left those jobs because it really was the golden age, you know.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to be promoted, you've got to sit there until, you know, you're 50, 60. It's different now because this predated digital. Disclaimer. But at that time, so whilst I loved it, I was really keen to have more responsibility, to take more on. So Dubai was, you know, this great opportunity where you could have the big job at a much younger age. You could be the editor of Grazia at 27, as I was.
Yeah.
So I loved it for that, came over for that, ended up meeting my husband here. We got married. So I was in fashion journalism in Dubai, first at Grazia, then at Harper's Bazaar, Arabia, for kind of all of my career out here. Absolutely loved it. But they are jobs that you have to love because they look and sound and are perceived to be a lot more fun and glamorous and less like hard work than they actually are.
It's fashion industry in general, isn't it?
Yeah, particularly in this part of the world, I think. And in fact, in other parts of the world more so, I think we led the way for having small budgets and small teams.
Yeah.
And now the rest of the world is catching up to that.
Yeah.
Those glory days are perhaps, you know, not so much there anymore. So when I loved it, it was honestly the best, you know, absolutely the best thing in the world. But I did hit a wall where suddenly I just almost woke up one day and said, I'm done. I don't enjoy it anymore. It sounds so awful to say I don't like the travel, but when you have a job where you are traveling a lot of time to LA, which is a big old flight, when you've got young kids, and it just kind of lost its appeal for me. And literally overnight I resigned. I didn't really think it through. Yeah. It was a very impulsive decision that I just made, and And
I think though when you know, I suppose then you say that knowing now that you made the right decision.
It was 100% the right decision. I have to be honest, there were a few times financially afterwards when I was like, you know, I had nothing lined up. I hadn't had any plans. I didn't think it through. I didn't think what I could go on to do next. I was just like, I know this isn't where I need to be right now.
Yeah.
And the only way that I'm going to come out of it is by severing ties with that industry almost directly and overnight and quite brutally. Of course, this was end of 2018.
Yep.
So throughout 2019, I was kind of freelancing, still half in, half out of journalism, you know, kind of still in that world, doing a little bit here and there, but finding my feet, trying to figure it out. I did a course online in fiction writing because everyone was like, oh, you got to go and write a book.
Yeah, because you found all the stories and the fashion.
I mean, I wanted to write, I'm a huge consumer of fiction, particularly fantasy fiction. And I would have loved to be an author and write novels, and I just not very good at it. I found out journalism is very different. It's factual, you know. So I did this incredible course that's really, really highly recommended in London, and it just didn't stir me. And I think I'm a reader, not a writer of fiction.
But you tried.
But I tried it. I gave it a shot. And it didn't. You know, so 2019, then of course COVID hits, and actually, whilst, you know, the pandemic was so awful and so tragic for so many people and, you know, hideous in terms of the impact that it had on economies and lives. But for me, it actually, in a way, helped, because when you strip everything away, you realize what actually matters and what you want and what you don't want. And if you had asked me before COVID what it was that I loved most in my life, apart from family dinner, I couldn't have told you. I was confused. I was, you know, blinded by the fashion bubble. It was the Chanel handbags and the travel to Paris and the lovely restaurants and hotels. And that's what I thought I wanted, because that's almost what I'd conditioned myself to hold up on a pedestal. When it was all taken away, what was the first thing I wanted to do when those restrictions were lifted? Go to a group exercise class. And I would never have I didn't realize that's what I missed until it was taken away from me. And then I was like, okay, this is actually what I enjoy, not the restaurants and the fashion shows and the celebrities and the glamour. It's actually that. So let's kind of lean into it. And I trained as a spinning instructor.
And was that something that you did, that you loved doing yourself anyway? Or was it just, I think that's going to fit my energy and work with what I'm going to do?
I'd never actually done spinning. I did a lot of group exercise, but more along the CrossFit or HIIT type workouts. And then went to a spin class as restrictions lifted. It was something I'd always put off because I always thought it was a bit culty and a bit weird on one side, and a bit like spiritually, which I'm not.
And I couldn't work.
And I couldn't have all that like inner chat going on. And then on the other side, so there was one side of it I thought that, then the other side, you've got these studios with leaderboards. I thought, well, I could never. I'd just be too
exactly.
But I think because coming back after COVID, all that pressure kind of gone. I thought, okay, let's just give it a try. Let's see what people are talking about. And just immediately fell in love. And I was like, I can really see this. I love it. It's just want to do it every second of every day. I love the music. I love the energy. I love the dark. I love the sweat. I love the movement. So just kind of started as a client, then trained as an instructor, and then Crank advertised for instructors. And I would never ever have had the balls to apply for that role because I'm significantly older than most of the instructors, not from a fitness background. But one of the instructors there who didn't know that I'd done a course and that was interested in it, screenshot the advert and sent it to me, DM'd it to me and said, you should try for this.
Oh, I've got goosebumps.
Yeah, and if he hadn't have done that, then I would never have put my hand up and kind of stepped into that audition, because huge imposter syndrome, huge. But because he did that, because I thought he's seen that in me and he doesn't know that I've kind of seen it in me as well. That gave me the confidence to kind of do the audition and get through. And then Crank, you know, they really took a chance on me. I'm older. I'm not from that background. I have no experience. I have to start at the bottom, learn everything from scratch. But the guys that run that fitness studio in Al Sakal are pretty magic.
I had him on my podcast.
Yes, of course you've had Nuno, haven't you?
Yes, I
so
have.
you know, he's pretty magic.
I'll link his episode in the show notes for this as well, for those that want to hear the backstory of Crank. He talked a lot about culture and people.
Yeah.
And he said a lot, if they're not the right fit, we don't have them, but we're a family. Like, I really remember him being quite passionate about that as well.
It's so true. And it's not just the owners or the management or the instructors. It's the crew, it's the clients. It really is a very special community. It's a very flat hierarchy. So the crew,
he talked about that as
the guys,
well. Yeah.
But he's not, and I'm not, you know, I'm a freelancer there, so I can pretty much say what I like. Yeah. It's really true that the guys who come and clean the bikes are given as much respect and as much love and time and attention, and are as much a part of the family as your sellout instructor who's waitlisted. And, you know, it's really everyone together. And the client who is maybe not very fit, who's maybe down at the bottom of that leaderboard, is given just as much love and attention, and we care so much about them as much as the one that's smashing it, you know, every week. It doesn't, that leaderboard thing doesn't, no one cares. Yeah. You know, we just want everyone to be together and to have fun and to sweat and to work out and to hope that that makes them perform better in the rest of their lives, makes them happier, healthier.
I love that. And I think people listening to this, there'll be people that have made the transition. There'll also be people that have got their toe in and out the water, and they're going, I want to leave whatever I'm doing and do something else. But I think that's a really interesting point you made, where you didn't know what you wanted to do. And I've got friends that want to go and do something else. They don't know what they want to do. What advice would you have? Because you tried something, which I think is one of the best places to start. What would you say to someone else that's thinking, I'm dipping my baby toe in?
It is almost like putting yourself, for me, it was that COVID mindset. I mean, I had no choice. Everything was taken away from all of us. So if you can almost put yourself in that position where everything's gone, you can't do anything, you can't leave your house. What's the first thing you want to do when you can leave it?
And what do you miss?
Yeah. What do you really, really want to do? And what do you not care if you ever do it again?
Yeah. It's interesting, COVID, and you know, a lot of people, for the challenges that it caused many, there's so many people that have come on to the podcast and said, but it was actually a massive time for reflection, and this massively positive thing happened out of it.
Yeah.
Which is
great if you can take something positive from it.
The transitioning, which I think is amazing. One of the things that you've always done pretty consistently is your personal brand. And I think the visibility piece of, you know, you shared the glamorous life as editor. I know we know it's not, but other people are seeing it on the outside. But you've also kind of shared your transition through that. But also through that, you've actually still had work coming through because you've had a personal brand. In the sense of speaking opportunities, influencer opportunities.
You having me on your podcast?
Yeah. What kind of, you know, is that something that you've done consciously and realised that you needed to do, or is it something you've enjoyed doing? Or
I suppose I'm very aware of branding and marketing, because when you work in the luxury industry, you're kind of hand in hand with the best branding experts in the world. You're very much tasked with working with interpreting their branding strategies and understanding them and understanding their motivations and why and how these brands are built and how they communicate. So it's something that is very much a part of me, almost by osmosis. It's like I really understand Chanel's marketing strategy here, or Dior's direction, or it's that is something that I have probably heavily internalized. So I'm quite aware of it, I guess. And aware, you know, as much as I love teaching at Crank and teaching spinning, and it's very much something I would hope I can do until the arthritis means I'm falling off the bike. From a financial point of view, I do need a bigger game plan as well. I think it's important to be honest to people that if you leave a big job like that, and it was a big job with a decent paycheck, to another job that isn't quite financially the same recompense, you either have to be aware of that and make the lifestyle adjustments, or have another game plan, you know, further down the line, which, you know, I have. Although again, it's come quite organically, and it's come on the back of the fitness instructor thing. So, and if you want to launch, again, another reason for leaving was that I didn't really want to work for anyone else ever again. I draw the line at Nuno. He's amazing. He's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful boss. He really genuinely is. But I really wanted to, and I'm a freelancer, so essentially I am still my own boss. Yeah. I really wanted to be my own boss and to not have to answer to people that I don't want to answer to. Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to launch my own thing. Yeah. And the brand, if you want to do that, the brand's invaluable, right? You've already created something of a community, or you've laid out your aesthetic, or you're already telling that story.
And the credibility. You know, I think as much as you might not be in that industry now, it was a big industry and well thought of, that doesn't go away. Yeah. Whether you're not in that industry anymore, you just take it to the next place and what your bigger game plan is. So what is the bigger game plan?
So sportswear. Yep. Not athleisure. Okay. Nothing against the athleisure, but there's a lot of it. Yeah. What I've really noticed that I've struggled with, and looking at the community who work out that I see, is there's a real lack of sportswear options for women who aren't 20-year-old yogis, you know, with the leg up here and nothing falling out.
No muffin tops.
Exactly. So the sportswear options that I'm often presented with, if I go to the mall and I want to go and buy, for me, it's a new outfit, right? Because I'm not going to the parties and the dinners and this and that. Yeah. But I am working out every day, or, you know, I think I'm on a stage, or, you know, I want something nice to wear. Yeah. There's just nothing that does the job that I also love. Yeah. You know, there's the stuff I love, I can't. You're going to see way more than you need to see. And then the stuff that's going to kind of hold me and support me and cover the bits that need to be covered is just really boring. Yeah. There's nothing meeting in the middle.
Yeah, okay.
And I think increasingly, you look at J-Lo, we look at Jane Fonda, women are working out for longer. My mum is 71 and she can hold a 7-minute plank.
Oh my goodness.
I know. She always wins the competitions against the 20-year-olds that they have in the fitness club where she lives. So women are staying fit and active for longer. And it's not a body shape thing. It's not, you know, it's just a mental health thing, getting through the menopause. Doesn't really matter what you look like, I think. And people that do it for what they look like probably don't have good outcomes. You have to, because you love it, because it clears the head. So I feel like there's this huge, brands always look young. They always, how do we get the next generation? Yeah. How do we get the next generation? No one looks at me, I feel, and beyond. Yeah. And so if there's a huge gap of products that I would like and communication that speaks directly to me, I can't be the only one, surely. Well, if I am, I'll have a very small company, but I'll look great, Kelly.
I love it.
I'll just sell to myself. There you go. So, yes, I'm working with a business partner who's a bridal designer here in Dubai to launch a sportswear brand.
I love it.
Hopefully this year.
Excellent.
It's been a slow process. Yeah. We're trying to build a brand, not just sell clothes. Yeah. So they're really engineered and designed and thought through and wear tested and wash tested. And we're in that process at the minute. So I don't want anything that I wouldn't wear or I'm comfortable with, because if I can jump around in it and nothing falls out, okay.
Well, it's interesting because I remember, you know, putting my styling hat on, and when I was with clients, what was quite interesting is that my clients that were, say, in their late 40s, 50s, 60s had money to spend. Yeah. So they would go into the designer clothes shops or the certain brands, and they'd be like, but I can't wear any of this stuff. And then a lot of the time it's marketed to, like, they found frustrated because, you know, their body shapes change so much and, you know, they're maybe carrying extra weight, and they're like, hang on a minute, but this designer stops at a size UK 12. Why? When they're a 14 or 16. Exactly. And they're like, but I've got the money to spend. Yeah. And it's really frustrating that then in your 20s, when you don't have the money necessarily, that's when the clothes, or that's when the designers are marketing.
Totally. And it's the same with sportswear, you know, as you have children or go through the menopause period, you know, this weight starts to accumulate here or in different places. You know, it shifts around, and I don't want that squidgy bit over my sports bra. And there are ways to work with it and to make you feel but not that I don't just have to put a baggy t-shirt on, because why should we? Because if we're trying to encourage women to work out more, to support their mental health, to keep them physically active for longer and therefore able to support communities around them, it's so much more empowering when you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm going to put the new outfit on and go to the gym and look good and boss it and pick up that heavy weight, rather than like, oh, I've got to put some saggy old leggings and throw a t-shirt over the top because I don't want, to show
people to see. And but it's quite an interesting mentality, having someone also been through the last 3 years, shall we say 4 years of really that feeling that you said you have to love it. Like I miss it when I don't work out. So I'm in that headspace now where it is part of my day and it's a non-negotiable.
Perfect. Yeah.
But it's funny about the clothing piece that I never valued the clothing that you wear and how you feel going to the gym, because I was like, hey, it's the gym, it's going to get sweaty, what does it matter? But actually wearing something really nice feels good when you're working out, it makes you work out more.
Definitely. It really does.
And I think that's all part of your brand as well. That style piece, whether it's in the gym, whether it's on Instagram, out, home, whatever, is all how you present yourself and how you feel.
And I love it when clients come into the gym wearing like a rocking outfit and just looking, it lifts the entire energy and it inspires me in a way to work out hard. And I'm like, it's, you like to be around aesthetically pleasing things, I think. Whereas when everyone's just in a drab t-shirt, it's like, school PE lesson, we've got to get through it. But I love it when people are like zhuzhed up and, looking fire. And it's really not a body size thing. It's just about being confident and looking cool and feeling happy in what you're wearing and feeling, I look my best and I feel safe to jump. I think that's also really important. It's
everything's going to hold in.
Exactly.
Or it's not going to rip.
When you're on the beach, okay, you're in swimwear, but you're pretty much horizontal like this and you can breathe in when you walk to the bar, but you don't have to move around too much.
Yeah.
Whereas in the gym, you've really got to have that ability. You want to feel free and you want to feel you can jump around, but also why not look good doing it?
Yeah. What are some of the strategies that you've learned from your fashion days, the luxury brand strategy interviews that you've had with people? What are you bringing into your brand? Like what's kind of resonated with you that you're like,
I think having that laser focus on the customer is really, really important. And it's very easy, as I'm discovering, to get swayed from that, particularly in sportswear, particularly when you're trying to do something that no one's really doing. So it's quite hard to convince the factories or to explain to them of what I'm trying to create when everything else is X, Y, and Z, which is for your 20-year-old yogi who has 5% body fat. And so you do start to question, maybe I should just do that. But I'm like, no. I know, I'm the customer. I know I can't wear that. I know it's not going to feel good and look good. So having that laser focus on the customer and sticking to those roots, because all those brands that have the incredible branding, the Vuittons, the Chanels, the Diors, they have that heritage story and they don't sway from it. Vuitton has its travel roots. Chanel has that audacity embodied by Coco Chanel, and they really stick to it, and it underpins everything they do really cleverly. And it doesn't mean they're not changing and modernizing and moving on, but they have that laser focus. Is that Chanel? Yes or no? And they really stick to it.
What are you bringing in your story of you not being able to find?
Yeah, so really taking that woman, that I would say 35 to end of life woman who has got a bit of money. I'm not too worried about price. I'm quite happy to come in at a higher price. I think there's some elasticity in the sportswear market. There's a lot of people competing down at the bottom end, and it's very disposable, and the product's pretty rubbish, and you wear it once and you realise it looks awful and you've got sweat patches and so you never wear it again. It sits at the bottom of the drawer.
If you don't feel good, then that's not coming out.
And that's actually, even if it was made out of recycled polyester, it's not sustainable because you've never worn it again. The sustainable piece for me is the piece that you wear again and again and again because you love it. It does the job. You look good. You feel confident. You don't need to worry about it. You put it on and you can go and boss your workout. Yeah, just having that focus on really strong, powerful, beautiful, not child, it's not wanting to be that 20-year-old yogi because I'm never going to be her, but I could be J-Lo.
Yeah.
Watch this space.
So if I was to cast a wand and say 5 years from now, where is the brand? Does the brand have a name that you can share?
Yeah, it does. It's called, it's 2 words.
Yep.
The first word is allez, A-L-L-E-Z, as in the French for go. The second word is kit, as in gear or stuff, like your sports kit, basically. So allez kit. The primary branding is the allez piece, but for various trademarking reasons, I needed to.
Okay.
So, and it's also fairly gender neutral. So hopefully, the dream would obviously be to go into menswear, what have you, in the future.
Yeah.
But strongly starting with women to get that luxury positioning that I want, the performance. We're starting very, very small, Kelly. Here I am talking a massive game. I'm starting tiny.
Okay.
I'm really inspired by Huda.
Yeah.
Beauty. She started with $6,000 and 1 pair of false eyelashes. We're kind of on that model of starting tiny, tiny, tiny. I'm bootstrapping it.
Yep.
We're like, I've got friends doing graphics. It's really tiny to get it right and build and build and build. If it performs as I think it will, because I do think, in fact, I know there's a huge hole in that market, then hopefully we'll get to a point where we can get some investment and really scale it and ideally go global. Yeah. I mean, I would love it to be a $1 billion brand in 5-10 years. My husband would. But it's very much something that I'm doing because I really believe in it and I'm really passionate. And I'm also really selfish and I want the product. Yeah. Not from it's not financially driven, which I think is maybe a mistake. I've spoken to some entrepreneurs for advice along the way and they get their pens out and they're starting to do margins and, cut those costs there and da-da-da. And I'm like, well, if I wanted to do that, I could have done it. Cheaper and in and out, quick exit, not brand build, just sell some leggings. That's fine. It's not hard to do that. I can do that. But I really want to build a legacy brand that maybe one day my daughter might run. She's mega sporty. She really inspires me. So it's a very different, slow approach.
I love it.
That it genuinely comes from here. And I get, I look at my mum and she's like, doesn't have anything interesting to buy for sportswear because she's 71. No one cares about her as a customer. Yeah. Well, bloody hell, they should. She can do a 7-minute plank, brands. Give Elizabeth Foster some good sportswear.
Well, and I think that's the space now. If I look around at sort of 40 and 50, they're working out.
Yeah. And 60 and 70 and 80.
Well, and now it'll
and by the
just
time
keep
we're
going.
there, 90. By the time my mum's there, 90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
the way through. There's no reason to stop. Yeah. As long as you start young enough that you can maintain it. You can't suddenly start becoming a bodybuilder at 90. You can at 70. Yeah. Some have.
I've seen some of the posts actually. There's been Joan.
Yes, Train with Joan.
Yes, I have. Yeah. And she's done this remarkable journey. I did actually send it to my mum and she was like, what are you what she took that somewhere else. She's like, what are you trying to tell me? I was like, just to be inspired by it. But it really is. When you're doing it and bootstrapping it yourself, what's the sort of the marketing strategy on that for you? How are you going to get people in it and know about it? Yeah,
well, I mean, that's obviously where the personal branding does help, because if you don't want to pay for a model or a photographer or a magazine cover, then, at least I can wear it myself. My husband can take some photos. So in terms of having people already ask about, and loads of people are asking, when's it launching? Yeah. And because I wear it to work, to crank, try and get it out there. At the minute, we don't have product to sell. We are still working on it. Yeah. But it will start, through social, definitely, through other women that I'm inspired by, that represent, the
your
community.
Ideal client.
Yeah, hopefully. So I'll be able to get some friends to wear it. I hope. But yeah, I mean, in the initial stages, there isn't budget. So it is taking advantage of opportunities like this. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
To get the word out there and try and talk about it. But yeah, slowly. I'm not going to chuck a ton of money onto paid advertising. It's something that I want really people to believe in the product and buy it because it really works for them. Yeah. Not just because they've seen an ad on Instagram. Yeah. That's a different DTC sales strategy that will eventually eat itself. This is very organic, slowly
Well, and I think that piece where you have got the brand, that you are wearing it, that you have got an audience, that it's kind of the obvious next step to go, well, what can I do to sell to that audience?
Yeah.
Did you always think that you would have a clothing line at some point?
No, because I'm not a designer. I can't draw, but the love for fashion and dressing up and color and fabric, that never goes away. I've always had that, and I think I have it more now that I don't work in the fashion industry. I think when you work in the fashion industry, you do hit a wall with it, and you're also, it's very prescribed what's cool, what's not cool, what's on trend, and often the stuff that's on trend is
I'm not wearing that.
Yeah, but it's very much goes against what I like or what I would genuinely like, but it's cool. And a lot of the stuff that I love is not cool. So you kind of have to quash a bit of yourself to fit into that, that sort of French girl cool vibe, that whatever it is that's going on, whereas I'm naturally a bit more like Barbie-ish, I love pink and shiny, and if I was to really let my own self shine through in terms of fashion, it's my own taste is probably not what the industry would consider as cool, but it's what I like. And now that I don't have to worry about representing, I can embrace my inner peaches and cream Barbie, Kelly.
I love it. Did you feel leaving this sort of fashion industry behind that it was a little bit of a relief?
Yeah, it is. It is that it was an immediate relief, and then everyone's like, don't you miss it? Don't you have FOMO? You're not Fashion Week. You're not, Kim Kardashian's in town and she hasn't called you. And occasionally I'd be like, oh, what have I done? And I have to be honest, there are times you think, oh, I'm not invited to that, or they've forgotten people that, you thought were maybe friends, or, but again, I'm lucky enough that I'm a 45-year-old woman. I'm sensible enough to understand how it works and to be able to step back and not take it personally and realize I didn't want to go to a dinner anyway. I want to go to bed at 7:00. I actually hate it when I didn't like it.
High five to early nights.
I didn't like it when I was invited for the dinners and I was getting paid to go to. That's the other thing. When you leave and you're freelancing and you still get invited to events, you're not being paid to go to them anymore. Previously at least I was getting a salary. Is this how I want to spend my time? I'm not getting paid to be here. I'd rather be in bed. How is it helping my life? So I kind of pulled back a lot from things, which is probably why I get invited to nothing now, because I don't really want to go. But you do kind of want to be invited even though you don't want to go. It is that thing, isn't it? It's tricky, but you just have to stay strong and say, okay, it looks great and it looks lovely, but actually I'm going to feel better if I just go to bed.
Because I only asked that from my own perspective as well, that I thought that I would massively miss the fashion piece, and I still touch on it in what I do with the personal brand piece and clients, and I still love the opportunity to help them with their personal branded style and where they're going, so I can touch on it a little bit, but from the events perspective, or being in on it, it actually feels I can be more me. I don't know why I felt I couldn't be me before, but I don't know if that's a thing in the fashion industry, that there is always this, you need to be someone else.
Yeah, there is. There is definitely an element of conforming to whatever is perceived as chic and cool, and that might not match with your authentic self. And when you work for a brand like Harper's Bazaar, more than Grazia, Harper's Bazaar particularly, it's 150 years old. There's this huge heritage on your shoulders of style and grace and elegance that as the editor-in-chief, you are entrusted to continue and promote. And when you're a bit of a klutz who likes a pink shiny dress and isn't actually that chic Corinne Reutfeld, type character, you are always trying to put yourself into a box that is maybe not the actual fit. Whereas, on the stage, flipping it back to Crank, on the stage at Crank, when I'm teaching a spin class, I can play whatever music I want. I can play Britney Spears, I can play banging EDM. I can play both of them back to back. That I can entirely be myself, and the best instructors are the ones who are themselves. And if you don't like me and you don't like my music and you don't like my energy and my vibe, that's totally cool. There's a load of other instructors you can go to, but I can be me. And again with Crank, actually, interestingly, at the beginning I did try a bit to be that cool instructor and play the latest Swedish House Mafia release, even if I didn't really like it. And then I realized, it doesn't speak to me. I have to play the music that I love, that speaks to my soul, that makes me smile, that makes me want to sweat and move. And hopefully that, that comes across. But you have that freedom. Whereas in fashion, I never felt I had that freedom.
That piece.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I have one last question, and I guess
Sure.
it goes back into the brand piece of an editor and those that are maybe listening and going, how can someone get featured? What do you look for when you're featuring someone, whether it was Grazia or a piece in Harper's? What are some of the key things that...
So I think the first thing, and it's really boring, but the first thing that people need to know, if you want to be featured in a magazine or a publication, read the magazine or the publication. Familiarize yourself with the staff that work there, what their job titles are, with the sections of the magazine. Think about where your story could fit into one of those sections. Because when people would approach and it was very clear they'd never picked up a copy of it.
Yeah.
I'm not your personal PR assistant. Sorry, Kelly. The editor's job is not to tell the story of the brands. Okay, it is from an advertising point of view, but that's a whole other story that is a different podcast. That's a campaign podcast. It's to serve the reader and to give the reader interesting stories. So we're not thinking, we should be thinking about the reader and what's going to be interesting for them, what they're going to learn, what they're going to take away from it. That's my job as an editor, not to promote someone's business.
Yeah.
Obviously, if that someone's business has $1 million dirham a year advertising contract with us, it's slightly different. Yeah. Different piece. So you really have to think about how your story is going to inspire that reader. Help the journalists out. They're swamped, particularly in this part of the world. Yeah. Really say, okay, this is going to fit really nicely on that page. This is the angle. Try and understand how those stories are put together. Do as much of the work for them as you can in terms of great high-res imagery that hasn't been seen anywhere else, that fits the style of the magazine. Anything that's going to save them time and money whilst speaking to their reader is going to really help. But please read the magazine. At least buy a copy. Pretend that you're really familiar with it and be nice about it. Yeah. Say, I loved your last issue. The story on so-and-so was so inspiring. It made me do X, Y, and Z. Then you've immediately got them on side.
So don't great tip.
Call up and ask for a staff member that left 5 years ago, which would happen all the time, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because if you value the coverage they can give you, you need to value them in return, I think, as the person looking for the PR. You need to show that you respect their work because you want their work. Yeah. So it's a two-way.
I love it.
Two-way street.
Thank you so much for sharing it, your insights, the transition and the exciting part going forward. And I will happily wear one of the new pieces when it's ready. So let me just go into my quick fire questions.
Okay.
Do you know Esther Perel, as in, have you heard of her? The relationship.
I was going to use another word that didn't begin with R. It began with S. But yes, yeah.
She did this great box of cards called Where Should We Begin? With questions. That you're like, okay, that's quite interesting. So I'm going to shuffle and bring it out. If you don't want to answer it, it's okay. I think it just gives people that perspective. I make too big a deal about.
I don't think I'm really pretty damn chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could whisper something in the ear of my younger self, I would say...
so much.
One thing?
Be more active, more sporty, because you love it. Yeah, just go out for a run and, yeah.
Were you sporty at school?
Not massively, no. I can't catch a ball, like no coordination. And there was that very much that thing that if you couldn't catch a ball, you couldn't play tennis, you couldn't play netball, you couldn't play hockey. Never did that. Rounders, don't even get me started. Therefore you're not sporty. Yeah. So you kind of got sidelined. Whereas actually I'm really good at running and cycling and individual, different. But because that wasn't seen, it took a long time to love it.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd loved it
earlier
at a younger age. Yeah.
Very good. Last one. I lose all willpower when it comes to
most things. Alcohol, champagne. You allowed that?
Yeah, why not?
Champagne. 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Still, even when you know you've got a spin class the next day?
Yeah. I'm very all or nothing. I have to just be really good and not. If I need to not, or I lean into it, I'm fine. I can teach you with the hangover. It's fine. It actually makes you better.
But sweat it out.
Like none of this one glass nonsense. No.
Yeah.
Once I start, I don't stop.
Thank you so much. It's been so nice to catch up. Well, long overdue. I wish you every success with your new brand.
Thank you, Kelly. Thanks for the chat. It was lovely.
Thank you to travel counsellors for this episode. If you're inspired to start a business like many of the guests that you hear on the podcast, and the thought of planning a dream bucket list holiday lights you up, check out the details in the show notes.